These incredible Lego battleships are built by Nicholas Kramer. We've got the USS Texas, an iconic battleship design that's still around today. Then we come over here to the USS Montana class. Never actually built in real life, but a fantastic prototype, really upping the ante with the amount of firepower here. Let's hear more from the builder.
My name is Nicholas Kramer, builder from Wisconsin. The first ship there is the USS Texas. Tried to get it more at the end of the war, a lot more fitted out with the anti-aircraft. Got a lot of detail into that one, as much as I could based on the pictures and the plans that I could see and find online. So thought it turned out really nice and happy it got nominated.
Yeah, so this is an incredibly detailed model. You can see like how much you've put on top of the ship, all the turrets and everything. Obviously the Texas still around today as a museum ship, so did that help with your research for this?
Not really. I always liked the class of it and like the history of it being the last dreadnought, so a lot of history. So going back and reading about that, it really kind of sparked the interest, and I kind of wanted to do that kind of class of ship. So turned out really well, I thought.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind of the uniqueness of this class of ships. So what does that mean kind of in terms of building a Lego model of this and the different design elements you had to capture there?
A lot of it was the changes that it went through history, being the dreadnought and having it being more based on the smaller turrets underneath that kind of got closed up and went to the bigger anti-aircraft guns through the years. So top side and like you can kind of see on the sides of the hull, it really changed a lot through the years. So even just finding like the older pictures of it, trying to find the correct time period to show the correct details was a little bit of a challenge. But I've never been able to actually see the museum ship, so everything I've gotten was mostly internet and book based.
Yeah. You can maybe start at the front and kind of take us through some of the different design elements and the details that we see here on top.
Okay. So the first challenge I had, not only the shaping, but the slope deck. The slope deck goes back quite a ways through the ship, trying to get that two-stud rise from almost midships, and then trying to blend that into the side of the hull so that I could build the superstructure above that. And then once I had the shaping of the hull and the slope deck design filled in, it's just a matter of going through the blueprints and filling in the topside details.
What are some of the Lego elements that you find work well to capture those details at this type of a scale?
Some of the newer slopes, the angled slopes, the cut tiles, those seem to work really well. There's a few of the curved slopes that came out recently for the hull shaping that was kind of nice. But otherwise, obviously, the colors are pretty easy to find for that specific color scheme. I could have went the darker gray or the darker blue that it's currently painted in since they did the refit, but I kind of like the plain basic naval gray through history, so that's why I kind of stuck with that one.
Yeah. Some people might be surprised there are planes on top of both of these battleships that you've built here. So what's the story behind those? How did those work?
Through history, I mean, they used them primarily as scouting, not only for the guns, but just trying to find the enemy ships and stuff like that. So a lot of the bigger ships would start to carry the scouting seaplanes as far as being able to go out. The Texas Incorporated actually putting the catapult over one of the actual turrets, which was still functional, but it just gave an elevated platform that didn't take up a lot of deck space versus the next class, the bigger ships that pretty much dedicated the whole stern to multiple catapults and just basic storage for the aircraft. So
that takes us to your bigger model back here. So what is this ship and what's the history behind this one?
So this is the Montana class. They were never actually built. It was planned beginning in 1941 as like the successor to the Iowas. They wanted to incorporate different designs as far as whether it was the fast battleship, but just in order to up the ante and be able to compete with like the Yamata class and things like that. They wanted a big, powerful ship that could also resist its own caliber shells. So they really heavily armored it, really increased the firepower, and they went through numerous designs through the years trying to figure out as far as how many guns, how many turrets, what caliber, if they wanted to actually bump up into like an 18-inch shell, which was kind of new at the time, but they ended up sticking with the 16-inch, which is what the Iowa used. a little bit longer barrels. Not quite as fast as the Iowa class, but what it made up for with the armor and the size, it was a lot bigger than the Iowa. So for me, for planning it, since there were so many different designs for the ship, I had to choose the one. I ended up choosing the one that it was finally selected from, and trying to get the actual the blueprints designs from that one. Since it didn't ever actually exist, it was kind of hard to find a lot of the details and stuff like that other than what they initially planned for it. So that's why the top side doesn't have quite as much of the detail and the changes that would have went through the years as far as changing out the rigid boats to more of like the rubber rafts just for deck space, the different antennas and sensors and things like that. Obviously that never materialized since it never was built or never refit, so I had to kind of stick with the initial plans.
Yeah. And what was the type of firepower they were kind of trying to add to bring this to that next level? What are some of the examples you've built here?
So the Mark 7 16-inch by 50 guns and the 4 turrets, that was kind of the main thing that they just kind of chose. And then the 5-inch guns similar to the Iowa. And then they really bumped up as much of the anti-aircraft fire as that they could. Because as most people know, the aircraft pretty much became the new wave for naval warfare, and the carriers kind of took over, which is why the Montana never actually was built, because everything kind of switched over to carriers and the battleships and battlecruisers kind of phased out.
One of the really striking elements for both of these ships is the hull design. As you look towards the bottom here, obviously some really difficult shaping there. So what have you learned from building these types of models that you can maybe share for someone else that's maybe looking to get into some Lego shipbuilding?
So I've had a lot of experience through the years with shipbuilding. That's kind of my specialty, and the hull shaping. A lot of people don't do the full hull. I've always kind of incorporated that into my builds instead of just doing a waterline model. Trying to find the plans that are not just the 3 profile pictures of the ship, trying to actually find the hull shapes through the cross members of the ship, trying to get the different shapes like as you go back, and then just kind of blend that shaping as you go and trying to find pictures to include the details and things like that. But yeah, I really try to capture the shape, like especially in the Texas, you can see the midships, the bulge, and things like that, where it really makes it a very beautiful shape. But I think that a lot of people don't incorporate.
Yeah. And now you do more than just ships here, so I wanted to mention some of these other models you've got over here. So what is this very, very large display here?
So this is the B-52H Stratofortress. Also known for a lot of planes through the years. I kind of backed off on that and very specialized more in ships, but I've always loved the buff. Really wanted to incorporate that. I know with the size was very daunting through the years. It's got some very unique shapes, especially with the engines, the very swept back wings, very large wings, by the way. But like I said, I've always wanted to capture it and the very uniqueness that it has with the 4 double engines, the 4 landing gear. Yeah, it's just been a favorite for mine. It's a very historic aircraft, very long lifespan and anticipated lifespan. So I always wanted to give it a chance, but it was daunting just based on the size and trying to figure out how to essentially move it through the years. So trying to get it here and trying to attach the wings was kind of a challenge. But it worked out, and I'm very happy with the way it turned out, and obviously a bunch of people like it. So
yeah. And with the ship models and the plane here, do these travel as kind of one big piece and then you bring them into the show? How does that work, bringing them to a show like Brickworld?
So the wings actually detach from the fuselage just to make transportation a little bit easier, but the whole fuselage and each wing is its own separate piece. And then each ship is actually a complete solid build. Not solid, it's hollow on the inside, but I don't build them in sections. As you can see, there's some quite large crates that I have to construct just to bring them, but it makes Makes shipping them a lot easier. They're a lot more durable, and I don't have to really worry about them falling apart as I'm trying to travel and transport them.
Do you post your builds online anywhere if people want to see more of your work?
So I used to have a very dedicated page under NK Custom Bricks, and then when I closed that store a few years ago, I switched over to a completely new page, Wisconsin Bricker, primarily on Instagram. But I've been starting to incorporate some of the older stuff, but otherwise all my newer stuff is on the Wisconsin Bricker Instagram page.
Sounds good. Well, thanks so much for all your work building these and bringing them out to the show here. I appreciate it.